Hi, everyone. Thanks for hanging out in the kitchen with me again today. I'm going to take you on a journey down into the southern part of Mexico and to the southeastern part of Mexico, out into the Yucatan Peninsula. And I'm going to show you two different classic fish dishes. And we're going to need a lot of lime juice for this. So I'm squeezing limes with my Mexican lime squeezer, crushing the outside of the limes. At the same time, I'm turning them inside out and pressing out all of the juice. So the two places I'm going to take you to, well, first of all, you have to understand that Mexico has 3,000 miles of coast. So you can imagine there's a lot of really great fish dishes. There are at least three really classic fish dishes that are grilled. And those are the ones that I'm going to show you today. And they are really super easy to do and really, really, really delicious. So one is called pescado a la talla, and that comes from the southern coast of Oaxaca and over into the around in the state of Guerrero. And then there's another one that's out in the Yucatan called tiquín chic in the Mayan dialect, which is grilled with achiote. So to start with here, I'm going to make a salsa that's going to be a Yucatan-style salsa here. And I'm going to make it very simple, but it's going to have some roasted garlic and roasted habanero chili. So let's take a look at these habanero chilies. You can see that they are they're orange, number one, and they first are green, a kind of light green, and then they turn to this beautiful orange color. In the U.S., we only get them in the orange thing, or orange state, but I encourage you to grow a plant of habanero chilies yourself so that you can enjoy eating them at the green state. They're actually eaten a little bit more in the green state in Mexico, in the Yucatan Peninsula, than they are in this orange state. For some reason, we like them in the orange state here in the U.S., so that's what I'm going to do because that's what we do in our restaurant. And I'm going to make a kind of tomato salsa, classic salsa, but using the habanero chili. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, that, oh my God, that would blow my head off to use an habanero chili. Well, in this salsa, when you roast the habanero, I won't say that it becomes mild by any means, but it sort of mitigates a little bit of that extreme heat. And one of the things that I will say about habanero chilies is that they are so incredibly flavorful. That's what we all really love about the habanero chili, is that they have a flavorfulness that reminds me a lot of sort of tropical fruit. Some people would say sort of strawberry or kiwi-like flavors, but it always reminds me, when I cut one open and just smell it, it smells different than every other chili. And that difference is what makes everybody want to go to it. That and the fact that it does have a biting heat, so if you like heat, then habanero can be your friend. Now, there's a really classic dish or salsa that they put on the tables in the Yucatan Peninsula. It's just habanero and garlic roasted like this, and lime juice and salt. That's all. And you don't put it on in spoonfuls, you put it on in droplets. But my gosh, it gives you so much flavor. I just love that stuff. The classic cochinita pibil, the slow-cooked suckling pig that's marinated in achiote, which we're going to use today, with the habanero salsa just sprinkled over the top of it. My gosh, that stuff is just super, super delicious. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is to make the marinade for the achiote for the tiquín chic. Now, first thing that we'll talk about is this pre-made achiote paste. I'm not going to show you how to make it. You can make it. I have recipes for it in some of my books, but boy, it's a big endeavor because it's made out of this little hard seed. It's about the size of a buckwheat groat, and it is this really dark orangey kind of color. I didn't open this package ahead of time, so I'll do that. And then it's the same color as this paste is here. So you can see it's kind of a brick orange kind of color. And this one is already ground up with all these spices and garlic and vinegar, which makes it super easy to use. Now, some of you may be wondering, where could you get something like that? Well, I will tell you it's in any Mexican grocery store. Any Mexican grocery store will have it, because they're always wanting something that's shelf stable, that can appeal widely. And since cochinita pibil, the pork dish that I just mentioned, is so common all over Mexico, you can find packets of this. Now, it looks like this is an enormous package. They come in small 3-ounce ones, but at our restaurant we don't get the little ones. We get the really big ones here. These weigh, this is 15 ounces. This is more than you're ever really going to need in your life. But this brand, El Yucateco or Marin, those are two very classic ones. I've been to the factory for El Yucateco, and I think it's really well run. They do an amazing job of making this in the traditional style, grinding all the spices in it from the whole spice. So you get some real freshness out of this. Get this paste home, it's really super simple to work with. You just take a chunk of it like that. That's all I'm going to do right now. And dissolve it with a little bit of lime juice. Now, in the Yucatan Peninsula, it wouldn't be lime juice typically, although it could be, but usually it will be sour orange juice. And sour orange juice, they're oranges that are kind of bumpy on the outside, and they're grown extensively in the Yucatan Peninsula. When you taste them, they only have a faint orange-like flavor. In fact, they taste a little bit, well, they're as sour as a lemon, okay, number one. And so sometimes I suggest to people that if you want to really get more of the classic sour orange marinade flavor here, that use half orange juice and half lime juice to make your marinade with. And that'll get you a little bit closer to the traditional one in the Yucatan Peninsula. Okay, so I'm just mashing this all together. And it takes a little bit of work to get it all done like that. But it's not hard. In fact, I think I may just let it sit for a little while longer and see if it softens up some of that paste. We're not going to come back to this for a little while here. So some people will want to know, what does the flavor of achiote taste like? It's one of those really undescribable kinds of flavors. Slightly sweet, slightly earthy. There's nothing that I can really liken it to. So I'm just going to say, get some achiote paste and try it. It's not good in the raw state at all. So you would never want to drizzle this stuff over something and then eat it right away. You want to cook it. And in fact, if we ever want to use it, say, as a glaze on top of something, we will cook down this already made marinade like this, and then we'll perhaps add a little agave syrup to give it some sheen or something like that. But we always cook it. And you'll see how we're going to cook it today when we put it on the fish. Okay, so I'm getting close to being done. Oh, that's good enough for me right now. I'll come back and work it at just a minute when we get to know. One thing about achiote that you need to know, and that is that it stains. In ancient times, it was used as much as for a dye as it was for food seasoning. And you have to use a lot of achiote to actually get the seasoning to come through. In the Caribbean, maybe some of you know about using achiote to color oil so it turns it its beautiful saffron color. And that's just for color. Or you maybe have had American, sort of that orangey American cheese. Most of that is dyed with achiote, but not for flavor, but for color. Margarine is usually dyed with achiote as well. So this stuff is really strong. If you get it all over your hands will be stained for a little while. Okay, let's put pause there. I've turned off this skillet here. In fact, I think I'll take those little garlic. These are really tiny garlic, so I'm putting a few more of them than what I would normally tell you to put in it. So we'll put those over there. We'll let the habanero just set in the hot skillet for a minute longer. And we're going to go and we're going to switch gears and we're going to make a quick adobo. So adobo is a red chili marinade. And one of the reasons that I wanted to add this to the class today is because I think it's super useful. And I've run out of it in my refrigerator at home. So I'm going to be able to make this for myself and then take it home. And I don't like to be without this in my refrigerator. So that's one of the motivations for doing this with you guys today. So I'm going to make my quickest version of an adobo, and it starts with ground ancho chili powder. I've showed you this before, but this is very commonly found in Mexican grocery stores, and now I'm seeing it in a lot of other stores as well, regular grocery stores. If you go to the spice aisle, those little 2-ounce containers of spice, you can find ancho chili powder in a lot of them. I think big corporations like McCormick and so forth do an ancho chili powder. So I wrote this recipe for 1 full bottle of it, which is slightly under a half a cup. So I'm going to do a little magic here with the microwave like I like to do. I've got 1.25 cups of water here, which I need to heat up, but I'm going to use it to cook garlic, or to blanch the garlic, I should say, for this, and soften the garlic. So I'm going to put it in here for 1 minute and 20 seconds because I usually would do my garlic for, well, if it's just a few cloves, 45 seconds or so would be enough, but there's a lot of water there, so I want to get that going. Now let's talk about the spices. When you are in Oaxaca and you go to a butcher shop, typically they will be selling their adobo there. Their adobo will have all of the spices that they like, and it could be a single chili like the ancho that we're using here, or it could be a combination of chilies, maybe a smoky Oaxacan pasilla chili. It could have the bright flavors of guajillo in it. That's very, very common. But today, just to show you a quick way to get into making adobo without using the full chili pods, I decided that I would do the powder plus blanched garlic. But we are going to add all the spices to it. So what I have here is the Mexican cinnamon, the true cinnamon over here. And then we've got some cumin seeds, some black pepper, and Mexican oregano. And I want to grind all of that up. This is more of the Mexican cinnamon than I need. So I'm just going to take what I need like that and put the rest of it back down there after I put all of this into my mortar. This could be done in a little electric spice grinder as well. But since I have this mortar here, I've been using it a lot in these because I want to show everybody how easy it is to crush these spices. So one of the things that you have to remember if you're using a Mexican mortar, which is made out of basalt. Basalt is a lava rock that is very dense. So this is made out of basalt. And the one thing you want to keep in mind, as opposed to the Thai granite mortars, you can't pound in this. If you pound in this, if you go like that with it, you will crack the thing and it'll fall apart, okay? So this is done in 2 ways you can hold it. I prefer to hold it like this. I don't know why it feels more comfortable for me to do that, but a lot of Mexican cooks will do this with it. They hold it just like that. So maybe you've seen people do that in Mexico. Okay, our spices are done. We have, I heard the microwave ding. So I've got blanched garlic and my water here. So I'm going to put that into the blender jar. Then I'm going to add to that the spice mixture here, which smells just incredible. That little tiny bit of cumin, black pepper, oregano, and cinnamon. Cinnamon gives that sort of sweet spice wonder to it. I love that. And then we'll put our ancho chili. I have some vinegar that's going to go in there. And then I've got to put my salt in it. Remember, this is going to be a marinade, and it'll last for a long time in your refrigerator. So you feel free to make a double batch if you want, so that you have it always on hand. So all we have to do is blend that blanched garlic now to a smooth paste. I want to make sure it's really smooth. Remember, I'm taking this home, so it's got to be perfect so I can keep it in my refrigerator. Let's look at it now. I'm going to taste it, so I'm going to just spoon a little bit of it up here. It's like the consistency of barbecue sauce now. It will be better after we let it sit for a few minutes here, but I'm going to give a little taste of it. I think I got the salt and the vinegar balance right. It's got a little bit, if you take all the sweet out of barbecue sauce, it's got a lot of that same kind of punch. It's really super delicious. Again, it's not good by itself. It has to be cooked. You wouldn't drizzle it over something. It has to be cooked, so it's a marinade to go on other things that will eventually be cooked. So I'm going to set this one aside now. Let's make our salsa to go with this. I'm going to do it as a roasted tomato salsa, the kind that would be called chiltomate in the Yucatan Peninsula. And the reason I've chosen this recipe is that there are times when you just need a salsa really quickly. And if you're like me and always have some fire roasted canned tomatoes in your pantry, you can do this one really quickly as long as you've got a little hot pepper of some sort to do. So I'm going to put the tomatoes into the blender jar along with this roasted habanero chili, but I'm going to take the stem off of it before I do that. It went someplace here. And I'm going to cut this into smaller bits here. Of course, we're going to want to make sure to peel off the papery skin from the roasted garlic. The reason that when we're doing pan roasted garlic, the reason that we leave on the skin is to protect the little clove of garlic from getting too blackened. But if it has little blackened places on it, don't worry about that. That will just add that really beautiful roasty, rustic texture and flavor to this salsa. So I'm going to blend this part of it really moderately smoothly, what I call a coarse puree. Yes, it is a kind of puree, but it's still got some texture to it. That's usually what I'm looking for in this. So we'll put the top on some pulses to start with here. Sort of like I would do with a food processor, just to get everything started in there. And it's not going to take too much more. I think it's going to be spicy. I can smell it's going to be spicy already. I'm standing back from it, but I think that'll be enough to give me what I would consider like a coarse puree. Now, a little bit of onion could be added to this as well. And if we do that quick rinse that I've keep talking about, it will make it last for longer. But I do want to talk to you about another little trick that we use sometimes in the restaurant when we're working with fresh tomato salsas. They can have a tendency to separate really easily, so that a lot of the liquid sort of just starts seeping out of them. This is something you can find in a well-stocked grocery store. This is the Bob's Red Mill brand. This is called Xanthan Gum. And if you put just a tiny bit of it, we're talking like a quarter of a teaspoon, a tiny little bit of it, it will absorb into the water, the juice that's there, and it will give it a really beautiful texture. But it's not very much that you want to get in there at all. You just literally sprinkle it right in on the top, and then just blend it like that, and you're kind of done with that part of it there. Okay, now I think that this is a good texture. I don't need to add water, but if it seemed thick now, I would want to add some water to that. So we will put this onion in here, and then of course I want to put a little bit of cilantro in there because that will be super delicious in it. I'm not going to use this last little bit of the onion because I cut up too much, and I don't like to have too much onion in it. But of course, the cilantro, I am going to chop in that chiffonade style. I do like a fair amount of cilantro in this kind of chile tomate style salsa. In the Yucatan Peninsula, I don't think they have fire roasted tomatoes in a can. So every time that I've ever had it or seen it being made there, it has always been made with fresh tomatoes that are roasted on the comal or the griddle, and it would be roasted right alongside the habanero and the garlic there. Okay, so I'm going to just put this on top. I'm going to use I've got to get a little bit of salt in here. And then I'm going to use the blender just as a way of pulsing those ingredients in, and that's it. Okay? Let me give you one more pulse because I put that salt in there. Okay, that should do that. And we're going to put that into a container here. And you'll see that you'll probably like the consistency of it with that tiny little bit of xanthan gum in it. Too much of it, and it can dull flavors and give it a slippery texture, which you probably won't like at all. Okay, so now we're on to talking about the fish and how that works together with these marinades. So I've got 2 pieces of mahi-mahi. And let's look at these guys. So mahi-mahi is very common, called in Mexico. It's very common in all of Mexico. You can find it in the fish markets everywhere. And I really like it because it's steaky, it's meaty. And for a grilled fish dish, I like that. You can cook it to medium without it getting dried out, as opposed to some other things like tuna. So you can see this beautiful. You notice I didn't even add any water to this. I mean any salt to this, because the paste already has all of the seasoning that you're going to need here. So I'm going to use this spoon to just smear this achiote over this piece of mahi-mahi, like that. And then I have the adobo over here that I'm going to smear over the other one. So you'll see that the consistency of that's still sort of steaming. I shouldn't be using it quite yet. It should be cooled off completely to room temperature. But you'll see that I can kind of smear this over the top to make our pescado a la talla. So the one on your left is tiquin chic, made with the achiote, and the one with the adobo on your right is the one that we would call pescado a la talla. If you ever go to Puerto Escondido, those of you that like surfing probably have been to Puerto Escondido. It's a great place to go to the down to the beach where all the fishermen come in, and they will have the fresh catch. And if you've rented a place that has a full kitchen, then you can go ahead and buy that stuff, and they'll clean it for you and everything, and you can cook it. Or there are people that make pescado a la talla right there on the beach over a wood fire. I've got this nice grill pan that I've been using over here. It's less exciting, I think, than thinking about working with a wood fire and cooking it and getting all those wonderful experiences, the smells that you can get, the taste that you can get from a wood fire. I'm going to spray both of these now, with a little bit of oil. This is an olive oil spray, and then I'm going to lay them onto the grill pan. And we'll see what happens here with these. Okay. Now, I have heated, as with all cast iron here, I have heated for half an hour or so, which is great if you're going to pan. It's really important, I think, to get it hot, well, to season it. Now, so I used this the other day, and at the end of the time of using it, I took a grill brush and I brushed it off. Then I cleaned it. I just washed it under water, plain water. And then I put it back on the fire to dry it off. And then when it got hot, I coated it with some oil and let it cool down completely. Then I went to dry it all off and take all the excess oil off of it. And that usually is a good way to keep these pans in good shape and working well for you. I will tell you that I never know how this is going to turn out. So I'm cooking live for you, so we'll see what happens here. But the biggest no-no that most people don't do is to leave their fish or whatever it is they're grilling long enough before they check to see, is it sticking? Is it coming free? And I will just tell you that it sticks to the grill when you put it on. You leave it for long enough that those beautiful grill marks come on it, and then they will release the food from the grill. So just let it go for a little while, okay? Second thing that we have to talk about here, we've got our salsa to go with, the sort of roasted tomato salsa. And by the way, I made that with habanero, but you can make it with any chili at all. You can put jalapeno in there. You could put a dried red chili like an arbol chili in there if that appeals to you more. Certainly the serrano chilies that we've been working with a lot are really delicious in there. But let's make a really quick red onion pickle, because that would always be served on the table with the Tikin chic. I'm going to cut up a little bit of red onion. This is always done. Pickled red onions are always done in the Yucatan with red onions, and usually that sour orange juice that I was talking about before. I'm just going to use some regular lime juice here. But to kind of hurry this whole process along, I'm going to put these into a little bit of boiling water and shake them around for a minute. Not even a minute, just a few seconds. What I'm doing here is to set their color. If you have a lot longer, you can literally just cut these up, then put them in with some lime juice, which I forgot to add to our salsa, so I will do that again. And you could just simply put the lime juice on and let them set for half a day, okay? So I'm just getting these a little head start by putting them in the boiling water for a minute or so. Give them a pinch of salt, like that. I'm going to stir a little bit of lime juice into this salsa just to perk it up. Lime juice is a good choice, but if you don't have any limes on hand, I'll bet you have some vinegar. So you could easily do that. And by the way, I didn't say what kind of vinegar to use in the adobo that we made there. Pretty much any kind of vinegar would work for it. In Mexico, it's very typical to have apple cider or pineapple vinegar. Those are the two ones that you find a whole lot of. So that helped it. And it's nice and spicy. Okay, let's go over here and see what this looks like. Yeah, I was worried about that. Okay. Fish is clearly the hardest thing to grill. And I have a really good grill at home where I would do that. Man, it came out okay. That's good. Now I got to do the same thing on the other side. So that's our one that had the red chili adobo on it. And now this one came off easier. Ah, that one looked really beautiful. It's curling up a little bit right there because of the skin on the other side. You can avoid that by simply scoring the skin about 1/16 of an inch deep in there, and it won't pull up like that. Let's stir up these onions here. And then we're ready to almost ready to serve. We used to say, people are always asking about time on cooking fish. And of course, I will go back to what it feels like, because that's the way you judge everything in the professional kitchen, is to touch it. So this is now what I would call medium rare. I would like the mahi-mahi to kind of coast toward a more medium doneness. But I will tell you that instead of just feeling it, you can also do the thing where if it flakes under firm pressure, so like that, so it's flaking apart right there, it's probably close to done, okay? So flakes under firm pressure is the way that I like to think of it there. Okay, so we're ready now to serve these beauties here. I will put our pescado a la talla on that side, and we would serve it with, we can serve it with that same, that tiquin chic. But the tiquin chic, I'm going to take some of these sort of lightly quick pickled onions and put those over the top of it. From Magic Bag of Herbs, I'm going to take some of these beautiful flat leaf parsley sprigs, because if we're going to go to Oaxaca, then we got to do the flat leaf parsley that they like so much there. And then on this side of it, we will do some sprigs of cilantro to go over the pickled onions. And there you have two really classic grilled fish dishes that I've kind of buzzed through for you right now. The tiquin chic with the classic achiote marinade that you just dissolve with a little lime juice. This very quick adobo for the pescado a la talla that is made from the dried powdered ancho chili, a host of spices, garlic, vinegar, something good to have in your refrigerator all the time. Very quick roasted tomato salsa made from canned tomatoes and all the classic ingredients that go into that. So as we move into the warm months here, I'm thinking about grilling a lot, and these are going to be on my table. I hope they're on your table. I'll see you back here again tomorrow. Thanks for joining me.